Yeah, but that will be something. That's right. No, 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 no. Usually, even in Israel, just the Yemenites are doing that. Yeah. And the Moroccans sometimes. Yeah, sometimes the Moroccans. Yes. It's really cool. If you want to see, there is a museum. It's called Anu. You can put it on. But it's the Museum of the Jews in the Diaspora, and you can find a lot of stuff there. Me? I'm both. Yeah. No, I'm the Ashkenazi and Sephardi. Yeah. My father is both because his mother was Sephardic, his father was Ashkenazi. His father was a Holocaust survivor. His mother was a family that was in Israel since 1495. Yeah, Spain with the Inquisition. Yeah. Okay, are we ready to start? I will show you the museum. Okay. So, some of you asked me about this. So I will start by sharing with you this resource. This is the Museum of the Jews of the Diaspora, what used to be known the Museum of the Jews in the Diaspora, and now it's called Anu. Anu is literally we are. So you can go on that museum and you will find many cultural aspects, culinary aspects, music, structures, of course, different synagogues from around the world, of all of the different communities of the Jewish people around the world. And it's a beautiful museum. So some of you ask me, so it's ANU. It's in Israel, it's online, and sometimes you can even find your distant family through that museum. So our portion is Be'alotcha. So God spoke to Moses saying, "Speak to Aaron and said to him, when you mount the lamps, let the 7 lamps give light to the front of the lampstand." And Aaron did so. He mounted the lamps to the front of the lampstand, as God has commanded Moses. This is what the menorah looks like. This is a one-to-one model that an institute, it's called the Temple Institute in Israel. Are you cold? We can, yeah, so we can put it up. I think I saw some blankets here somewhere. No. Nope. So Mechon HaMikdash, or the Temple Institute in Israel, in Jerusalem, is dedicated to make all of the vessels of the temple for the day that it will be the third temple. So they made a one-to-one copy of the menorah made out of gold, exactly as it described in the Bible. Remember, there should be no parts that are screwed together or anything like that. It should be made out of one solid piece of gold. Which brings me to Rashi. So according to Rashi, Aaron Feld, Rashi was a commentator and a Jewish philosopher and a rabbi. He did a lot in his life. And French also, that's right. That's right. And according to him, Aaron felt demoralized because every other tribal leader got to bring flashy, expensive dedication gifts to the tabernacle, while he was left out. And God tells Aaron, yours gift is greater than theirs because you light the lamps. This is your gift, to light the lamps of the menorah. So my question is how do we balance the desire for public recognition with quiet daily work of keeping our community inner fire lit? So what do you think, how we should balance it? We are all human beings, right? So we are. Even Aaron, which would become the high priest, the first high priest, and his descendants are going to be priests, even Aaron is looking for recognition. And God is telling him, your gift that I'm giving you is greater than all of the other gifts because you light the lamps. So the question is, how do we balance the desire for public recognition with the quiet daily work of keeping a community's inner fire that is lit?
Or is it more important to actually do the work that's important?
I think all is important. I mean, it's not about the credit actually, but you want to be, when you do something, you want to be acknowledged. Because if you're not acknowledged the first time, you do it because you spontaneously, you want to do it. But with time, if you're not acknowledged, the desire die. Because, yeah, if they don't really, do they appreciate me? A lot of questions come because then there's no word, there's no reward, there's nothing. It's just like, it becomes almost like the work. You have the work and you have to do this. You do your work during the day, but then you have to do another work because there's no more gratification about it. So it becomes like two work because the work it's for you to, you don't want to go to work every day, but you have to because you have to earn a living because you have to survive. But then when this has become like you do without gratification and you have to do it, and then suddenly you do it, but it becomes like you just do it, and now you're not even paid. It's not even for a living, and there's nothing coming from it. Then you start to question yourself, why am I doing it?
That's amazing.
Should I just pass the torch to somebody else who will feel gratified with it? If I don't feel any more the gratification, should I just keep doing it? Where's the purpose if is there no, sameach to do it,
Happy, yeah. I think you are absolutely right, and we need to take into account human nature, and we need to take into account that we are human, and it's not, I agree with you, it's not a bad thing to seek gratification, to seek support, and I think that the sentence of Kol Israel, again, Kol Israel arevim ze lezeh, all of Israel are responsible for one another, comes into account because when you are dedicating your life, not even your life, yes, your life, when you are dedicating yourself to keep the light of the congregation, when you are dedicating yourself to do a service to the congregation, a service that you volunteer for, a service that, as you said, in the first time, second time, you will do that because you want to. But then if nobody acknowledges that, you say to yourself, well, why? Why should I give for myself to people who don't give back and who are not there for me and who are not responsible for me? I need to be responsible for them as they are responsible for me. And I think, and I really thank you for being honest, because that honesty is very important, and that is where that sentence of all of Israel are responsible for one another also lives. It's not easy, as some of you know, to sit through a board meeting. It's not easy to do things in the synagogue, even if you like them, even if you like those things. But what gives you strength is the community. So I think I completely agree with you, and I think that in order to answer that question, we need to seek inner light within each other and work together to bring that light forward. Just like there is a tradition of lighting the Shabbat candles in the synagogue together, because you bring the light of Shabbat to the community. By the way, do you know the history behind the Kiddush in the synagogue? It's fascinating. So thousands of years ago, and I'm talking about after the year 70, after the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, when Jews could no longer go to the temple for the three major holidays for Passover, Sukkot, and Shavuot. Right? Those were the 3 times that Jews went to pray in the temple during the year, made pilgrimage to the temple, and in the other times, like they would bring offering to the temple if they did something, or to say thank you to God, and so on and so forth. But the central praying place was the temple in Jerusalem. Well, after the destruction of the temple in the year 70, you don't have a central place. So Jews are forming what we know today as synagogues, as Bet Knesset. Bet Knesset literally means house of gathering. And one of the things that, you know, that are commanded to us to sanctify Shabbat is with the fruit of the vine, with wine. And when you read the Talmud, it's fascinating because you see the prices of wine. And prices of wine, 1900 plus years ago, or 1900, should be 1900, 930 some years ago, long time, were equivalent today to what we believe is about $2,000 a bottle. So only very few people can afford to buy a bottle of wine. They didn't have fridges, right? So to buy a bottle of wine every single Shabbat, that would be $8,000 a month. Only few people could do that. But again, all of Israel are responsible for one another. So they came up with the idea that all of the members of the community are going to pitch in and are going to buy a bottle of wine for Shabbat. And if the community was big, they sometimes would dilute, it's called yain nesech in the Talmud, they sometimes would dilute the wine with water, but it will still be fruit of the vine. But the idea is a beautiful idea, that the rich, the poor, middle class, and everything in between, and even the stranger who come to the synagogue, can all sanctify Shabbat. And it goes very deep in Judaism, that light. And it goes back to the menorah. The light in the menorah in the temple would never go out. The light in the menorah would never go out, and the light on the altar will never go out. As a matter of fact, according to the Torah, according to historians, there used to be a special room in the temple for the fire in the winter to just keep the fire going. Because with the menorah, that's not a problem. You just add olive oil. And we all remember the story of Hanukkah and the miracle. But with the menorah, you just add olive oil because the menorah is sitting right outside the Holy of Holies in a room. So the menorah is protected in the winter. But winter in Jerusalem can be tough, and the altar is not protected. So they used to have a special room that the fire would never go out. And they just keep on feeding the fire. Yes?
I want to, that's a question, and I'm glad that it just happened. The menorah, the temple, was the seventh branch, right?
Mm-hmm.
But every time now on Shabbat, when we light up the candles, we have our 2 candles. But we have also a menorah. Why don't we light up to keep a tradition similar to the temple? Why don't we light up a menorah of 7 branches on Shabbat instead of the 2 candles? And where did it start to 2 candles in our house? I mean, when you read the Tanakh, you read the Torah, you don't read the candle, the 2 candles light up. And so I know it must have happened after the temple destruction. So why is it only 2 candles? Why is it not a 7 candles menorah that we light up? What happened? When this happened? Do we know?
Well, there are a lot of traditions regarding the 2 candles. If I don't know something, I will say I don't know, and I can check it for you. And in this case, I will say I don't know, and I can check it for you. Because you are right, like why we don't light a menorah, right, every week. Right, but the tradition is to light the candles for Shabbat, the 2 candles. Some say the 2 are symbolizing the unity of the nation of Israel with God, or the bride and the groom, right? Some say it's Shabbat bride. What? It started someplace. I think the Middle Ages. A lot of those traditions started in the Middle Ages. I need to check. I don't want to say something that I don't know.
By the same occasion, can we check also if those traditions that started in Middle Age, was there a need? Was there a need for that? Was there a reason, like a need, like maybe we didn't want to blend with the rest of the population. We didn't want to forget ourselves. Could that be?
Yep. Well, but you need to be careful with that because you need the right sources.
Oh, that's Rabbi AI.
Yeah, those are all the traditions. That's not.
I was reading a couple years ago a book about Rashi. It was historical fiction, and I guess something had happened to him physically. He couldn't leave the house. He couldn't go to synagogue on Friday night. And his wife was like, "Okay, so be home with me this week." And she goes and she lights the candles and she starts doing the prayer. But anyway, in this book, Rashi is a historical fiction called Rashi's Daughters, I think. But Rashi was ill and could not go to the synagogue on Friday night. And so he was home with his wife, and she lit the candles, which, that was expected. And then she starts saying the prayer for it, and he was like, "Whoa, where did you get that from?" She goes, "It's the prayer over the candles for Friday night." He goes, "Never heard it before. What are you talking about?" He was like, "Where'd you get it from?" He goes, "Well, all women know this prayer. It's handed down from our mothers and everything." He was like, "I guess I've never been around women on a Friday night." It was just blew, in the book, it just blows him away that he didn't know where that prayer had come from. And he was saying it's not in the Talmud.
Before the men were together and the women were.
Yeah, so I don't know if that has any, historical basis, but I thought it was interesting.
It says that the first time we find it is in the Talmud.
In the Talmud.
Yeah, but, and they give it in the Talmud, in part of the Talmud, the Gemara, it give it 3 different reasons. One is for the honor and the pleasure of Shabbat and to bring in light in Shabbat. One is Shlom Bait, so peace in the house, because for them, when they are saying, Rashi is saying, in a place that there is no candle, there is no peace, because somebody can go in the dark and will fall all of the time. So, and then there are actually 2 more reasons. One is with Jewish mysticism, that the candles of Shabbat are like the sun and are bringing light to our soul. And one, and that's the reasoning for the 2 candles, is because the commandment of Shabbat, we find it twice. One is just Shamor, right? Shmor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho, keep the Shabbat day to make it holy. But one, in the other place we find it, is Shamor veZachor, keep and remember the Shabbat. So we light the keep and remember together.
Remembering.
Yes.
And that's why it's in a house.
Yes, that's the reasoning they are giving it here.
But I always wonder why, because I always saw the menorah in every synagogue you go, you have a menorah of 7 branches,
Yes.
but we don't light them. And I always wonder why we don't light
Some
them.
synagogues,
We light them but we don't light them, like we do the Shabbat candle. Like we don't do a prayer when we light them. Usually they plug it.
so
They plug the menorah, and here we go.
So one of the reasoning I know of not lighting them, not lighting the menorah, and this is in more traditional camps, is because our life is not complete. We don't have the temple, and we don't light the menorah until we have the temple in Jerusalem. That's one of the reasoning I know for that. But we do light the Chanukiah. The Chanukiah with the 9 candles instead of the 7. For the 8 days of the miracle, and then we are recognizing that God, the Shamash is really God. Like, God is the one that made the miracle. And that's why in the Chanukiah there are 9 candles. So 8 days of the miracle that the menorah was lit for 8 days until they got new oil. And the 9th, and the Shamash is always higher, right? The 9th is God, that is higher, and made that miracle. And the 7 branches of the menorah in the temple were for the 7 days of the week. By the way, last time that the menorah was seen was a little bit after the year 70, and you can still see it. Do you know where?
Is it in Rome?
Yes.
On that, they're leaving Jerusalem with we saw all the menorah and they're leaving.
Yeah. Yeah, the spoils of war from Jerusalem. That's right.
And
Titus.
it's in Rome.
Yeah, Titus made the Ark of Triumph in Rome after he defeated the Jewish people in Jerusalem. By the way, it took him some time until about 73 because the Jews in Masada held until 73. So they held for 3 more years. And that was a big embarrassment for the Roman Emperor. But that's the last time in history that those were seen. And there are all kinds of conspiracy theories about where you can find the vessels of the temple. That's one of them. But I mean, until today, the fact is that until today, the cellars of the Vatican are closed to the public. We just don't know what we have there. And it's their own entity, and they have the Swiss Guard, and nobody goes there. And they have their own security forces. The Swiss Guard is like their own army in a way. But the last time in history that this, and remember, that's made out of pure gold, as other vessels of the temple, and that's why they took them, the Romans. The Romans didn't care about the ritual aspect of it. They cared about the gold. The last time that was seen was on the Arch of Triumph in Rome. Okay, we are moving to complaints. Now, one of my research papers in rabbinical school was on all of those complaints. And you should have been there when I wrote the paper in my house, because my wife heard that. I was sitting in the room and I'm like, what is going on with those people? They are living slavery, right? They are living 440 years of slavery. And they immediately start to complain. Immediately, like after they leave. One of the first complaints was like, well, this is hard and we don't have enough water. So God is providing them water. Now we don't have food. And I kid you not, this is what they say. And the cucumbers and fish that we had in Egypt were really, really good. You were slaves. You didn't have the best food in the world. You were literally slaves. No, but the cucumbers and fish we had were amazing in Egypt, and we missed that. So God is sending the manna. And then they're like, and then in this portion, this week, and you can read it, it's fascinating, they're like, the children of Israel, this manna always tastes the same. We don't like it. We want meat. So Moses goes to God and is like, God, I can't take it anymore. Like, enough with those stiff-necked people. And God is like, relax. I still need you to be their leader, although it's really hard. And I will send them what they want. Don't worry. So God sent them a lot of meat that they cannot even contain. And by the way, until today, scientists, I was on the other side, on the scientific side of it. We are talking about quail. There is migration of quail from Africa to Europe twice a year, one in the fall, when they are going from Europe to Africa, right? Warmer weather, and then parts of Africa are filling up with water in the winter, parts of the Middle Sahara. And then in the spring, the quail will fly north to back to Europe from Africa. And it's very hard journey. It's about 3,000 miles per direction for a board this size. But until today, the Bedouins in Sinai will catch the quail on the shores of the Mediterranean, because that's part of the route. So they will catch the quail in Sinai as they cross. So historians think it's about quail. But God is sending them a lot of meat and also a plague because of that. God is punishing them. And you think that's the end of the complaining, right? But no, they are going to complain more. So we are shifting from the orderly inspiration of Sinai into the reality of the travel. That, remember, now they need to travel for 40 years. And instantly, the complaints begin, and the people demand meat, and Moses experienced severe professional burnout. This is the Israeli Saturday Night Live version. I highly recommend for you to see it. It's called The Jews Are Coming, or היהודים באים. And some of them have, as you can see, subtitles. And this is one of the first complaints. According to the Israeli Saturday Night Live, this is one of the first complaints that they do. I don't know why. Can you see it? Okay. So let's just see it. Moses says that a lot. Yeah.
Is that true that we all almost be called Mosaite instead of Yehudi, because when even God was tired, and one time it says, okay, I'm fed up of them, and you're going to be the one, and let them die in that desert.
That is true. There is, sorry, 1 second. That's 9, 4, okay. Just need to get this. There is, there are several places that God had enough. And the children of Israel, famous case is the Korach, and I can show you, they did a video on that too that explained the story pretty well. But Korach is this young leader that comes when Moses is getting older, and they're still in the desert, and they have a mutiny against Moses. And Korach is managing to have a very big following. And God is again saying, not only those people are complaining all of the time, but now they have a mutiny. They don't believe in me. They don't remember what I did for them. I don't want those people. So he's saying, I'm just going to kill all of those people. But shalom. I'm just going to kill all of those people. And you, Moses, are going to start with a new nation. And it's not the first time. And Moses is pleading to God, God, don't do that. Moses is putting himself on the line, and Moses is saying, God, please, don't do that. Don't kill your people. And then Moses also saying, what would the other nations say? You know, because if you kill your people, what did you do? You led them out of Egypt, and now you are going to kill them? And God is hearing Moses' plea and does not kill all of the Israelites. He does, yes, the earth is opening up and swallows all of Korach and the ones that followed him. But the rest of the children of Israel, the rest of the Jewish people live. And again, there are several cases like that. So,
but Rabbi, isn't it something to say? I don't want to say anything about Hashem, but in that particular moment, Hashem was not thinking rationally, and Moses brought him back to think rationally. You know, isn't it odd? But
it's
that's
beautiful.
what it looks like this.
It's beautiful because, again, in several places, we have indications for that God needs us as much as we need God. And God in the Torah is very, in some places, is talked about in very human terms. God is flaring his nostrils, for example, when God is angry. Pay attention. When you are angry, your nostrils will flare. God is the only time in history Moses on Mount Sinai is saying, God, they are building a golden calf. I can't take it anymore. Please, just give me a proof that you are God. I want to see you. And God is telling Moses, you can't see me because if you see the front of me, you will die. What I can do is put you in a cave and put my hand, human, over the cave, and I will pass, and you will see my hand and the behind side of me. And that's what God does. So this is another place that God is like a human being. And there are several places like that. And until today, we did it today, the Baruch Hu prayer is we as human beings are blessing God. We give power to God, not the other way. And connecting to what you say, to what you said at the beginning, which I think was beautiful. When you volunteer to do something in the synagogue, right? When you are doing something out of your heart, recognition sometimes is part of it. So God is entering a covenant with the Jewish people. And a covenant is not one-sided. So there are a lot of places that the ancient rabbis that are saying that God needs us as we need God, and it's a partnership. If you look on the challah that we just ate, if you look on the wine, that cannot happen without partnership of God and human being. God can give us the wheat, but somebody needs to take the wheat, tend to it, and God said in the book of Genesis, you need to tend to the earth, by the way. You need to tend to it, water it, harvest it, make it into a flour, put a lot of eggs and a lot of oil, and make it into a challah. Partnership. Right now, on Shabbat. Symbolize partnership. The wine, the grape juice. God can give us grapes. But unless we tend to the grapes and we water them, and we then harvest them, and then we crush the grapes and get the juice and ferment and all of the process, there will be no wine to sanctify Shabbat. And God is asking us to sanctify Shabbat that way. So it's a beautiful question you just asked. It's partnership, really. Any more questions? Before we move to...
I think it's like the kid when we do Sunday school. You know, it's good to teach them, but during the teaching, we give them a little reward, because otherwise, you know, they come in here and they say, why am I learning a language that I'm never going to use anyway? You know, I can learn it like a week prior of the bar mitzvah, the bat mitzvah, and say I'm done with it. You know, just recite it by heart, and here you go. No, they're really learning, and they're so happy when they were able to read, and so it's a little bit similar for us. You know, we want to volunteer, we want to give, but along the path, there needs to be some little recognition on it.
Right, and sometimes Judaism says that as human beings we have limitations. And sometimes we are like kids. And in a lot of places in Judaism, God is a father. Avinu Malkenu. Avinu, our father. Same, at the same time, Avinu Malkenu. Only our father and our king. But the relationship is both with the king, but also very personal as with the Father. We are the first religion to believe in one God. We are also the first religion to have God's private name, which is Yud and a Hey and the Vav and the Hey, which nobody really knows how to say anymore. And there is also the commandment of not saying God's name in vain. So we don't say that name. We say the name, which is Hashem. We say Adonai, which is my Lord. But we do not say the actual name. We don't know how to say it, and we cannot say it in vain. But we have God on a personal basis, literally. The relationship with God is very personal in Judaism. Can be everywhere and anywhere. And at the same time, it's a covenant. It's a symbiotic relationship. God supports us and we support God, which I think it's beautiful. And at the same time, to just make it more Jewish here, but at the same time, Israel. Do you know the story about Israel, how we got that name? It's a fascinating story. Right. What happened to Yaakov?
Fell asleep on a rock.
No, after that. So, okay.
He fought with an angel.
Yes.
And with the ladders.
The ladders is when he falls asleep.
Yeah.
But you're right. He fights with an angel. So Yaakov is the twin. Okay, let's start with the birth.
With Esau.
With Esav. That's right. Yaakov is a twin. He's younger. Okay? I don't know about how many minutes, but, you know, my daughter, I have twins. They are 12 years old, and my daughter always reminds us that she is 12 and 1 minute. So she is older. In ancient times, that was really important. The older son would get all of the inheritance and all of the blessings. In this case, the blessing from his father is to be a great nation. It's kind of a big deal. And then Yaakov's mother, you know all of the story with the stew, and Yaakov is hiding as Esau, right? With putting some wool on his, like a goat skin on him, sheep skin. So he's hairy, right? And also smelly from the hunt. And then he comes to his father, and his father thinks it's Esau, and he gives him the birthright. Now, once you give the birthright, you can't take it back. So he's giving him the birthright to Jacob, and then Esau comes and come back from the field, and he's like, "Father, I made you food." And he's like, and the father can barely see. "Son, I already ate. You already gave me the food. What are you talking about?" He's like, "I just came. It wasn't me." And he realized that Jacob stole his birthright. And he's asking for his father, "Father, bless me." And his father says, I can't. I already gave the birthright. And Esau is saying, "Father, please bless me," like something. And the father is giving him a blessing that he is also going to become a nation. But he will be a second to the nation of Jacob. So Esau is really mad. Fast forward, Jacob is running away from home. His mother tells him, your brother Esau vowed to kill you. Run. He runs away. Many years pass. Jacob is really successful. He has a lot of money, a lot of flocks, herds, camels, goats, sheep, you name it. And Esau is really successful. Like their father said, they became two separate nations. They had more than one wife, but they had a lot of kids and servants and everything else. By the way, servants are not slaves back then. If a servant is getting paid and you need to feed them and take care of the family and everything else. And they can decide after 7 years if they want to leave.
And it says you have to take care of the word. It's not really slave in Hebrew.
It's Eved. Eved can be
servant.
Eved is a servant, but the modern term Eved is slave. But it's not like it was in this country.
Yeah.
A servant usually choose to be a servant to get the job, and sometimes they choose to stay. So the Torah says that if they stay, you need to take them to the side, to the doorpost, put the rear on the doorpost, and stick a nail through it. So it's a sign that they chose to stay with you, them and their family.
Because even Abraham, when he was looking for a wife for Yitzhak,
He sent his servant.
He sent his servant,
Yep.
and with a lot of the servant, if he was really like in a bed, he would like take the whole, like the flock and all the I don't know what he has. He has like cows and
Yeah.
he would have just leave with it.
He
No,
could, but
he went.
he didn't. Yeah. No, it's like workers today, but more
Because he said you're supposed to take care of them like your own children.
Correct. You take care of your servant. You take care of their family. You take care of the servant's wife, of the children. You feed them. You give them a place to live. And after 7 years, if they decide to go, you pay them the full salary for the 7 years. So, but we got veered off a little bit. So, Jacob is Jacob wants to meet his brother after many years, and he's really afraid. And he's very smart, Jacob, and he's sending ahead gifts. So he's next to the Jordan River, and he's sending ahead ships with his servants. And then he's sending camels. And then he's sending goats. And then he's sending gold. And he stays alone. And now he needs to cross the river, but he's alone. And in the night, he meets, that's the thing, the Torah doesn't tell us what he meets. It just tells us he meets Ish Elohim, he meets man of God. We don't know if it's an angel or it's God itself. And that being is telling to Yaakov, no, you're not going anywhere. And Yaakov is telling to that being, I am going to meet my brother. And that being is telling him, no. And they start fighting. And Yaakov and that being are holding each other right here in the tendon. By the way, that's until today the reason that Jewish people in kashrut laws will not eat tendon. So a kosher butcher will take out the tendon in the T-bone steak, for example, in Israel. So the steak will be kosher. It's called Gid Anaseh. They both hold each other here for hours until morning comes. And then Jacob is saying to that being, no, the being is saying to Jacob, Jacob, let me go. I need to go. And Jacob is smart. Jacob is saying, no, until you bless me. And the being is saying this. The being is saying, I am going to bless you. Because you have fought with God. That's the being does say. You have fought with God and you survived. You are going to become a great nation. Your numbers are going to be numerous as the grain of sand on the shores of all of the seas of the earth, and as the stars in the sky. Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel. Israel are two words. Isra, to fight with, and El is the most ancient word for the belief in one God. So that being is telling him, you have fought with God, you prevailed, you are going to be a great nation because you fought with God and you prevailed, and your name is no longer Jacob, it's Israel.
So that's why Israel is his name.
Correct. That's why the Israeli people, that's why the children of Israel. It's actually the children of Jacob, but it's the children of Israel because he fought with God. Well, until today, we fight with God, which is, I think it's one of the most beautiful things because we can ask questions.
Israel are still fighting.
Yeah.
Rabbi, is there a reason why, because I saw it in the Siddur, why today they tend to change Israelite for Yehudim? You know, because in the Siddur they say, Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, that make me a Jew, but it's written that
No, Shasani Israel.
yeah. So it's like that make me an Israelite, or son of Yaakov.
So the word Yehudim come later in history. And the word Yehudim comes from the tribe that controlled Jerusalem, which is the tribe of Yehuda or Judah. David will become the king, but the tribe of Judah, there are two kingdoms before King David. There is the kingdom of Judah, which controlled Jerusalem, and there is the kingdom of the rest of Israel, which is north of Judah, and many tribes, 11 different tribes. And they are in war. It's kind of like a civil war. And then King David come and unite them against the Philistines. But the word Yehudim, or Jewish, come from Judah, the tribe that controlled Jerusalem. And because Jerusalem was always the capital of Israel. We are talking about since the fourth temple and since a little bit after the Exodus from Egypt. Always the capital of Israel. And Yehudim, Yehuda, this is where it comes from. And then Jude, and then Jewish. So this is exactly, as a matter of fact, in the year
So
70.
why the Siddur is different? The translation in Hebrew and English, it's not the same.
So I used to have a great professor that told me, and great rabbi, that told me that every translation is an interpretation. And he's right. That's just an interpretation of somebody. It does say, Shasani Israel, was made me Israel. It does say that. But today, and back then also, Israel is really the Jewish people. Yeah, so it's not wrong. Oh, wow, okay. Do we want to learn a little bit more, or we are okay? Whatever you want. I will show you one more thing about Korach, and we will finish with that. Okay, so we will finish with that because that's, it's not in our portion, but it's connected to our portion. In our portion is another rebellion against Moses. But this is one of the big ones in history. This is Korach. And they are making, because it says Saturday Night Live type of thing, they are making it light. But in the Torah, it was not light at all. There was a rebellion. God got very angry, almost killed the whole Jewish people. And Moses managed to reason with God, and God only killed Korach and all of his followers. Yeah. Sorry. Here we go. This is built on our portion too, because in our portion, Aaron and Miriam are going against Moses and are being punished. So that also happened. Moses needs to deal with a lot. He's considered the most compassionate, one of the most compassionate prophets that we ever had.
You know, Rabbi, it's funny that Moses, they portrayed him like an old man.
Yeah.
And Aaron, almost the same, they're almost similar age. He looks like a young, almost could
Moses
look
and
like
Aaron.
his son.
Well, Moses lived to 120, and then God, there are only, I think, 2 times in the Torah that it's like that. God takes Moses to walk with God. That's what it says. After that, it says Moses died. But in its death, it says God takes Moses to walk with God. Noah, also same story. God took Noah to walk with God.
תודה. חברים, עשינו דרך ארוכה. והאמת היא שיש לי מספר רעיונות להמשך המסע שלנו במדבר, אבל בשתי מילים, casual Monday. היא חבורה של מפגרים. נראה לכם שאני בכלל רוצה להיות המנהיג שלכם? נראה לכם שבאמת מתחשק לי לקום כל בוקר ולנחש מה תהיה התלונה הקטנונית הבאה שלכם? משה, תתאים לחצת לי, משה, חם לי, משה, אפשר להחליף את האוהל? יש לי חול באוהל, יש חול באוהל! אנחנו במדבר! ולמה אנחנו במדבר? כי זה מה שבא לאלוהים. מדבר והקרבותי. רגע, אני רוצה להבין פה משהו. אתה לא רוצה להיות מנהיג, אני כן רוצה להיות מנהיג. כולם פה רוצים שאני אהיה מנהיג, אבל אתה אומר לי שאני לא יכול להיות מנהיג, כי אלוהים לא רוצה בזה, ולאף אחד אין מושג אם זה נכון, כי רק אתה יכול לדבר איתו. סוף הבנת. עכשיו אפשר להמשיך בבקשה, תודה. יש לי רעיון. מה עכשיו, אהרון? מה? למה שאתה לא תשאל את אלוהים? שאני אשאל את אלוהים. כן, תשאל את אלוהים. תשאל את אלוהים, זה רעיון. תשאל את אלוהים! עוד לא שמתם לב למכנים ובחובות הזה שכל פעם אתם מתלוננים על משהו מתים איזה 3,000 איש, לא שמתם לב? פתאום נהיית פחדן, מה קרה? נהיית צ'יקן? אין בעיה. ותפתח הארץ את פיה, ותבלע אותם ואת בתיהם, ואת כל האדם אשר בכוח. את הקאז'ואל מאנדיי דווקא אהבתי.
So I hope you enjoyed our Torah study, but this is some of the times that children of Israel are both complaining and rebellion, and there is a lot. Try and see the Jews are coming. It's hysterical. SNL, Jewish SNL. It is. If you read the Korach in the Bible, look it up. That's, yeah. Some of the parts of the Bible can be very tough.
תודה רבה, רבי.
Thank you. תודה.